Hey folks, Coach Jeff here, and I want to talk a little bit about heart rate training. Someone asked me a question this morning which prompted this video actually. During the course of the question and answer period on our Ask the Coach page, she mentioned that the book that she's reading for her Ironman training expressly forbids and talks about staying out of zone 3 as much as you possibly can. And in my response to her, I said, well, 10 years ago, that's what we thought, that you should never ever train in zone 3 and was known as the no benefit zone. But that was years ago. And since then, we've learned differently. So I've heard mentions of this book and its training programs in the past. And so I went and looked the book up because I've never read it and saw that the book was actually published in 2004. Now, there have been 4 additional upgrades to the book, but they've never upgraded the science. This scares me a little bit. And if you went to your cardiologist because you were suffering some kind of heart issue, and the cardiologist said, well, I can identify this problem, and in the last 13 years, science has really evolved, and we've really learned new things, but you know what? I'm going to treat you with 2004 methods because that's been around for 13 years. My guess is that you'd stand up and run out the door and go to a cardiologist who's going to treat you with modern science to fix your issue. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at today with training. And as coaches, I think it's incumbent upon us all to understand the evolution of the science. And the evolution of the science doesn't come from things that we make up. It comes from better understanding of the human anatomy and human biology, and taking that and applying it to older training sciences and let them evolve. And what we do know today is that it is okay to do portions of your training in zone 3. We talk about mitochondria all the time, and there's 2 kinds of mitochondria development, right? There's mitochondria volume, and then there's mitochondria function. And what does that mean? Well, as we do aerobic-based training, we develop more and more and more mitochondria. Something we can do every time we re-engage a training cycle is go back to the base and develop more mitochondria volume or numbers. And the other part of the mitochondria equation is mitochondria function. And that's the ability to make the mitochondria stronger so that they can perform more effectively and give you more when you need it. And that comes from harder efforts, and those harder efforts begin with medium-based aerobic efforts in zone 3. Look, when you're in zone 3, you're still aerobic. Yes, the mitochondria volume comes down, but the mitochondria function goes up. So, especially in cycling, when you're out there cycling and you're doing steady, longer efforts later on in your training pyramid that are in zone 3, you're actually developing power on those longer, stronger rides. And that's something you want to do. As a runner, you want to start to engage zone 3 efforts in the latter stages of your build phase, going into your first hill section or strength phase, as we like to call it, so that your body is now starting to get accustomed to developing the ability to carry race pace efforts longer. Now, not everyone gets into zone 3 on race day. Not everyone races that hard. So is it that fun? Is it important for everyone to do that? No, but most people at some point in time will be engaging fast twitch fibers. They will be getting into higher levels on race day, higher effort levels, just because of the wear on the body. We know if we start out on a long aerobic run and we're trying to stay aerobic, the longer and longer that goes on, the harder and harder our cardiovascular system has to work to support those efforts. And that's when you start to get those creeps. So at some point in your training, you have to start adding those efforts into your training. Now, in Ironman training, do you necessarily need to do lactic threshold training or any kind of anaerobic training? Not necessarily, but zone 3 efforts and working at or just above aerobic threshold, where you're going just a little bit faster than you're going to go on a race pace day, maybe a little faster than your marathon pace. Those efforts actually benefit you. And yes, you're still developing mitochondria, just not at the same level that you develop when you have an aerobic-based effort. But you are increasing the effectiveness and the functionality and the strength of that mitochondria that they'll give you when you ask for it. So those are the things that you need to think about when you're out there training. Look, it's 2017. We know now that there's benefits in zone 3 training. Not a lot of zone 3 training, but there's benefits in zone 3 efforts when put into your training pyramid and your training cycle at the right places. So when someone tells you stay out of zone 3, say, well, I'm not so sure that's right, and look around and see what other people are doing. There's a reason why we do workouts at harder intensity levels, and those reasons are because we're making the mitochondria more functional. And there you have it for me today. If you have any questions, prsfit@gmail.com. You can go on my website, click on the Ask the Coach button, and ask me a question. As always, be healthy, train smart, have fun. This is a coach. Have a great day.